to overcome the tendency to enjoy, we serve. So it's very good for men to serve women, because men by nature want to see women as their servants, or an object they can enjoy. So if they serve them, they overcome that propensity. And the woman sees the man as Prince Charming, her knight in shining armor, who will fulfill all her desires. Now it's very good for her to serve him also. And it makes a very nice arrangement when they both want to serve. Then there's peace. No fighting anymore. No battles. Everything is Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So simple, right? So now the next question is, we all understand this. It's the ABCs. So why is it that when we enter Grihastha life we forget? Can anybody answer that question? I don't even know if we can answer that question. We enter that arena and then we forget. And again, we want to enjoy, control, not serve. I'll serve you if you serve me. You didn't serve much last week, I won't serve you. I'm doing enough service for you. That's all you get. How did we end up like that? I was saying today in class, in the Jagannath temple, I was saying that cannot see or hear you at all. Well, should be able to hear now. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Audio is good here, okay. But what was the last thing I said? Yeah, so I said, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says to be kind, to be tolerant. So many qualities are there in the 12th chapter. And there's no disclaimer that the kindness, the tolerance, the compassion is only for certain people. Is there any disclaimer there? Be kind to everyone except when your wife upsets you. Then it's okay. Just yell at her and put her in her place. If your husband doesn't cooperate, get a frying pan, bang him on the head. It's okay. Krishna didn't say that. At least if he did, I haven't found the verse yet. And if the verse was there, there'd be a lot of men with a lot of sore heads right now. So, fighting is a very ineffective form of communication. Don't you agree? Isn't it? I think fighting is a very ineffective form of communication. But the reason we fight is because we don't have effective forms of communication. Things build up and then, and lack of good communication is a symptom of a bad relationship. And a symptom of a bad relationship is you don't want to serve and you want to control and you want to enjoy. Right? Isn't it? Now one might say, but what if my wife and I, we're not similar, but we don't get along that well. But that's not the point. The point is not how long you get how well you get along, but the point is how well you serve. That's the point. Because if you serve, you get along, even if you don't get along. He's smart. He's nodding his head. Now, the amazing thing is that in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are many examples of husbands and wives to give us some example to follow. So why don't we follow the example? What's wrong with us? It's there for our benefit. We create our own models, right? Okay, this is here in Srimad Bhagavatam, but I have my own idea. I'll do it this way. And what is that way we're doing it? That is our conditioned nature, where the Purusha Bhav comes over, the need to be right and so forth overcomes us, and then we act that out. Not the way it's explained in Bhagavatam, not the way Prabhupada explains to do it. Then we have problems. Yes? If you want to have problems in your marriage, I can tell you many things you can do. I have experience. I can guarantee if you do this, this, or this, you will have problems. Guaranteed 100% money back guarantee. Just try to be the enjoyer. Just try to be the controller. Don't serve unless you're served, and only serve to the degree that you're served. Only serve as much as you believe you deserve, that your wife or husband deserves it. And always insist that you're right, and don't listen when they talk to you. And I guaranteed your marriage will be like a wrestling arena. We could sell tickets and bet on who's going to win the next fight, because there'll be one every day. So, we're talking about communication. So, when people talk about communication, they think communication means what? Speaking well. You have to learn how to communicate. You have to learn how to say what you mean what you say, be articulate, focused, systematic, clear, concise, articulate. That's only part of communication. The other part of communication is what? And the more important part of it is what? Listening to what the person said. When you have an argument, the only thing you're listening to is when the other person will stop talking, so you can make all the points that you figured out in your head. Yes? That's not communication. So this is a big point of breakdown in relationships. People, they don't listen. And the frustration that keeps coming up over and over again is about the same thing, because nobody listened when the other person was talking. Right? What do you have arguments about? Usually one or two or three things, and you just recycle them every few weeks. Because nobody listened and nobody understood. Kind of foolish, right? Kind of a waste of energy. So, that means that listening is difficult because our egos are big and we think we're right and we want to convince the other person we're right. And we don't want to listen to them. The reason we don't want to listen to them is because we don't think what they're saying is of any value, and we think what we have to say is of value, which is why you should listen to me, because what you're saying is stupid and nonsensical, and what I'm saying is smart and logical, so be quiet and listen to me. On a scale of 1 to 10, how Krishna conscious is that? And we, who are practicing Krishna consciousness, do that. Yes? Crazy, right? Isn't it? So, when devotees act improperly, I ask them a question. I say, Prabhu, what verse supports that action? What verse supported what you just said to upset this person? Of course, I'm joking. There is no verse. Right? So the life of a devotee is that he acts on the order of Guru and Krishna. Somehow or other, when we get into household life, we think that arena is a free zone. Bhagavad Gita doesn't count in there. Like some countries, they have a duty free, they have a free zone where there are factories that produce things, and then they export from the free zone. So there's no import or exportation. They get the products they need to make what they're going to make. Like they get the cotton and the silk, they make the clothes, and they export it. It's the free zone. So somehow we think when we get into Grihastha life, it's the free zone. You don't have to do what Krishna says. Isn't that interesting? It's okay. I can fight, I can get upset, I can order, I can be bossy. I don't really have to serve, you know. It's not my duty. But it's a strange phenomena that we're all affected by. If we just understand it's not a free zone and we begin to act in Krishna conscious ways within the family, then everything works nicely. Simple. Yes? Now, one of the reasons we have difficulties is because men and women are made differently. And much of what men do seems awkward or strange or foolish to women, and much of what women do seems foolish, awkward, or strange to men. Yes? Anybody disagree with that? Okay, it's time for a joke. You like jokes? Is it okay for devotees to tell jokes?
Yes.
So, women speak more than men, in case you haven't noticed. Just look at your phone bill. Each month your wife's will be higher than yours. My wife and I recharge our phone, and hers runs out a lot faster than mine. It's like, mine goes for months and hers goes for like a week or 10 days and it's gone. Why is that? They're made differently and they need to express themselves more. So it's said that they express themselves more with words, with different sounds like ah, ooh, ah, ee, ah, and emotional and gestures. They do more of that. And it's said that Italian women do up to 20,000 words, gestures, and vocal expressions, compared to men who might max out at 7,000. So their Italian women are three times more. They speak 3 times more than most men, right? So now the man is looking at his wife thinking, why is she always talking to her friends? Why is she always on the phone? Why does she always want to talk to me when I just want to relax? And he thinks something's wrong with her. Maybe he doesn't realize that all women do that. So here's the joke. The man says, I haven't spoken to my wife in 6 months. His friend says, why not? He said, I didn't want to interrupt her. So, it's one example of many, but there's another interesting example that the way men and women are wired is that the female brain, it doesn't work well with understanding things within space and time and how things travel. It's hard for them. That's why in the what do you call those guys in the airports? That air traffic controllers. It's like 90+% men, because women aren't good at, because you have to adjust timings and space and things moving. They're not as good as men because their brains are wired differently. It's said when a woman looks at a map and you want her to navigate and you're driving south, of course the map when you look at is north, she'll turn it upside down. Whereas a man will just look at it and he'll understand, he doesn't have to, right? That's the way they are. They'll actually turn the map upside down. And then they found that Women can read maps if the maps are two-dimensional. If it looks like it does in reality, they can read it. But it doesn't. A map is only one dimension. It doesn't look like reality, so they have a harder time. Where men don't have a hard time. And so, a lot of husbands and wives get into arguments because the wife can't read the map, and he gets frustrated. So, if you're going somewhere, well, now we have GPS, so it's less of a problem. But if you're going somewhere, don't ask your wife to read the map, because you might get in a fight when she takes you to the wrong place. Of course, with my wife and I, we don't have a problem, because whatever direction she tells me to go, I go the opposite, and we always get there. Because I know whatever way she says to go will always be the other way. So, if you know that the differences between men and women are wired within their minds and hormones, then you're okay. Women are more emotional than men, and when they study women's brain, they can see in the brain that they're more emotional. They actually did experiments where they took female rats and injected them with testosterone, and they became men. And when men don't act like women. So hormones. Men have more testosterone, 10 or 20 times more than women. You can actually, in Russia, they actually, in the womb, turn women into men and men into women by hormones. Nobody knows that, except me. But it's true. It can be done in the womb. Don't tell anybody, because they'll change all the girls into boys, right? But I could tell you a million things scientifically that are different between male and female's brains, which account for huge differences in the way males and females act. Which is why men sometimes don't understand women. They think they're crazy or they're emotional or what they do doesn't make sense, and vice versa. But it's all wired, and the male and female are just acting it out. Right? And some men have a little more female hormones than women, and some women have more male hormones than other women, and you can see. And those are the women that tend to do male jobs. They'll enter the army, they'll play football, they'll become police officers. And by looking at them, you can see they're a little more male. And then the men who are a little more female will be the hair, they'll be the hairdressers, the artists, the clothes designers. And if they really go that far, then they become gay or lesbian. It's mostly hormonal. I mean, you can see it, right? I see women who are much more male than I am. You've seen them, they're big, tough, and rough, and it's the hormones. Have you seen women like that look like men?
En mi escuela sí.
Yeah. So, a lot of our arguments that we get into are just because the male and the female, they see things differently. They're aware of different things. They say when a man goes into a room, he looks around and thinks about what needs to be fixed. They'll say, they could put this here, or that doesn't work. He's more mechanically oriented. When a woman goes in a room, she sees who's there, who's talking to who. And just by the husband and wife walking in, the woman will think they have a good relationship or they don't. That's just how they think. They got everything figured out. It's just the way they're wired. There's nothing wrong with it or right with it. It's just the way it is. And so the more you understand the differences in the way men and women operate, then the more you just accept that's just how it is, and you don't get frustrated. Right? So, okay. Is this a joke? I guess it's a joke. It's time for another joke. Once a husband forgot his wife's birthday and came home late at night. His wife opened the door and asked him, "How would you like to not see me for a couple of days?" The husband says, "Wow, that would be great." Monday passes by, he doesn't see her. Tuesday passes by, he doesn't see her. By Wednesday, he starts seeing her a little from the corner of his eyes. when the swelling starts subsiding. You understand? He got punched in. He said he forgot his birthday. And she said, "How would you not like to?" She was so mad. Said, "How would you not like to see me for a few days?" He said, "That would be great." So she punched him in the eyes, and he couldn't see her for 3 days. What?
That's why it remained for only 3 days. That's why it remained only for 3 days.
This is for fun.
Pancha.
Affectionate punch.
Yeah. I thought you said pancha tattva. Guru, that's a Guru Nishna, that's a pancha tattva joke. The truth of punching. So there are many, many, many differences between the way Krishna created men and women. And so it's something we need not to demean or complain about, but it's something we need to accept. And then when our spouses do things which don't always make sense to us, we accept that that's just the nature of the male or the nature of the female. And it's studied. You even see the nature in animals, the male and female nature, even in animals. So does anybody have any questions or comments? Yes? No?
My question,
whether the two difference speak more and brain?
No, there's hundreds of differences. You want to know them all?
Yeah, no, not all, but maybe few more.
Oh, some more differences.
Few more so that
Women are more relationship oriented, and men are more process or achievement oriented. And men are geared to solve problems. See, it's important to understand that before 100 years ago, women didn't work. So you have a whole different situation in society, and you had a whole feminist movement where women were trying to be equal to men. But previously, that wasn't an issue because women accepted their role as taking care of the family, and men accepted their role as providing for the family. So that's how they were trained. So the differences suited that service. Taking care of kids, you need to be more relationship oriented. Providing for the family, you need to be more achievement oriented, right? So it just worked, right? Taking care of kids, you need to be able to function with intelligence and emotion at the same time. So women, you want to hear something interesting? Progesterone is a hormone, right? And progesterone is produced when women see babies. Just by seeing the baby, they produce progesterone because they're so wired to children. Isn't that amazing? Nothing happens when a man nothing hormonally happens when a man sees a child. But when a woman sees a child, even a teddy bear or a baby doll, it'll actually do that to a woman because she's so linked to child rearing. Isn't that amazing? So when you put men in equal roles in jobs, what they're finding is women experience much more stress doing the same thing because they're not wired for that kind of life. Where a man is, he's wired to go out, fight a war, tackle difficult jobs like that. That's their nature. So men are very success-oriented, achievement-oriented, problem solution-oriented. And women are more relationship-oriented. So two men can go out and do something and not talk much. But two women will talk the whole time. That's their nature. So a man will look at that and say, well, you just talk. Why are you always talking? When a woman's upset, she'll talk about it. When a man's upset, he'll think about it. And he'll try to figure out how to solve it. So he doesn't want to talk about it. He wants to think about it. Because a man's more independent. So he'll just, on his own, he'll try to figure it out. Where a woman, she talks it through. So women always talk with other women about their husbands, their families, their problems. If a man's having a problem, he just generally doesn't talk about it with his friends. He just figures out how to deal with it, or he just stays silent. So it's his nature. We say man should protect woman. Woman should be dependent on man. That's their nature. It just became a problem in recent times because men and women are educated in the same way to do the same thing, and now they have similar roles. And so now, when women go out in the workplace, what the research has said is if they act like males, the males will respect them more. If they act more like females, they'll be less respected, even though they're doing the same quality work. Because they're doing a male-oriented job. As stupid as this sounds, it says they'll be more respected if they lower their voice. Because if they speak too high, it sounds like a woman. And it doesn't sound businesslike, does it? Good, let's go make the deal. Let's be number one. Let's go make the deal. We're going to be number one. It's the male achievement, right? So, because the male is achievement-oriented, when his wife has a problem, she wants to speak about it, and by speaking about it, she'll deal with it. But the male wants to solve it, but she just wants to speak about it. So for the male, he's thinking, that's stupid. Let's solve it. But the female's thinking, I just want to talk about it, because she processes things by speaking. The male just is solution-oriented. What can we do? Practical. How can we solve it? So then sometimes there's frustration when they're talking because she doesn't want him to solve it. She just wants him to hear it. It's just the way they're wired. Yes? So then he's trying to solve it and she's getting frustrated and says, why are you trying to solve it? I just want you to hear me. And then it doesn't make sense to him. Until he understands this, that she just wants him to hear it. So who would know that? How would we know that unless we're very perceptive? So, if I'm going to serve my wife, or if as a wife I'm going to serve my husband, the more I know about how the male works and the female works, the better I can serve them. Right? And the better I know how to interact. Like my wife said in the workshop, she said, if men understand, then when the wife speaks, they can just ask, do you want me to just listen, or do you want a solution? Or the wife can say, before he even asks, the wife can say, could you just listen to what I say, and I don't need a solution, I just need you to listen. And he can say, okay, because now he understands she wants to talk. He can just listen, and then he'll listen, and she'll say, thank you. And he'll think, is the problem solved? And she'll say, yeah, I'm fine. And he can't figure out why she's fine, because there was no solution. But the solution was for her to talk about it, and just, she talked about it, she's fine. So we have to understand these things, because then it eliminates friction unnecessarily. And there's so many other differences, just incredible differences. And so you'll see in certain professions, male, female are about 50%. Other professions is 90% men. And professions like teaching, especially kids, it's more women, because kids, women. Women, the female qualities, they're kinder, softer, more compassionate. The male qualities are harder, more competitive. Right? So it works within the proper context. The difficulty now is that male and females have the same roles. So sometimes men need to be more female, sometimes females need to be more male to work within a situation. But in traditional society, you didn't have so much of that problem. The men could just be men and the women could just be women. And then in the extended family, the women had all these other women they could talk to, so they didn't have to just have their husbands, who get pretty bored hearing what they have to say anyway. Right? So they could use up their 20,000 words on their cousins, aunties, grandmothers, you know. Right? And the men could go out and do their thing and get a lot of male association. And so the male-female was, you know, it's more around providing and taking care of the family. That was because there was so much social interaction with so many other people. So it made it easier. Now, the nuclear family, it's you, your husband, and 1 or 2 children. And so you've got to, you know, you've got to compensate for all the emotional support that they were getting from the family. And that's a bigger challenge for the man, right? So, Chinchi says, I hate if my partner is interrupting when I'm talking. That's very common. Why would a man interrupt? Because he says, I understand. And he'll want to make his solution. My wife said that women interrupt one another, but they don't mind that. That's how they deal. They mind it if men interrupt. You had a question?
So you said a man gets married to woman because he wants to control, enjoy, and be served. And it doesn't happen. You said you should go reverse, and you should.
But does it ever happen that he goes reverse?
Then he will get frustrated. Yeah, the main purpose of his marriage is lust.
The main purpose of his marriage is to satisfy his lust, and then if he just serves, he'll get frustrated and say, I got changed up, I got cheated, I went into this marriage to be the enjoyer, and now I find out I'm the servant. Well, I would say for a non-devotee who didn't understand that when they got married, it can be very frustrating because he'll definitely demand things from his wife which may be unreasonable and harsh. But I would say a man who's not a devotee, who's a little sensitive, will look at the whole scene and realize that I got myself into a situation where I'm working all day for the family. I come home and I take care of the kids. On the weekends, I fix the things that are broken. The job description is pretty much a servant, whether I like it or not. And sooner or later, he'll realize that's what it is. But as far as the devotee is concerned, it should be less of a stretch or jump, because he understands that when he's getting married to work together with his wife to advance in Krishna consciousness. So if he's thinking, I'm the enjoyer, he's really misunderstood. And if he thinks, I'm going to enjoy this, he's misunderstood. You enjoy Grihastha life by creating an environment where you can make advancement in Krishna consciousness. Then it's enjoyable. But you try to enjoy one another, it doesn't work. Just like when we associate, we enjoy one another's association because that association is bringing Krishna. Through our association, it's like we're rubbing 2 sticks and we're creating fire. So Krishna is coming out of our association, so it's very nice. So if Krishna comes out of your association and your family more, then the family will be nice. Right? You see your kids growing up Krishna conscious. You see your wife and husband making advancement. You're serving together. It's very inspiring. But I think what's really important to understand is that if we don't create a peaceful environment within the home, then we've just taken Grihastha life and we've pulled the rug out from under it. Because the whole point is to create a peaceful environment. Because a man or a woman who needs the association of another man or woman is not peaceful without that association. So the idea is you get married and it calms down this desire to be with the opposite sex. So when that desire is calm, then you can peacefully engage in Krishna's service. So if you go into the ashram and then it becomes disturbed, then it actually defeats the whole purpose. So that's why Prabhupada said, get yourself married and live peacefully. That's a very important statement. That's one of the main goals of Grihastha ashram, is live peacefully as a platform upon which you can execute devotional service. If it's not peaceful, then all your energy goes into resolving all the conflicts and difficulties, and you degrade yourself by arguing, and you agitate your mind. And what's the point? Right? So that's the idea. Create a position upon which you can peacefully execute Krishna consciousness in advance.
What about the cases where the different levels of Krishna consciousness, like husband is advanced nicely, or wife is not advanced, or wife is advanced nicely, husband is advanced?
Oh yeah, so Prabhupada says that if the wife serves the husband, she'll get the spiritual advancement of the husband, even if her practice of Krishna consciousness is not as good as his. And then you have to understand, both women and men have to understand, that as a person practices Krishna consciousness, they'll come to a certain level where they're just going to kind of hang out on that level for a while. You know, maybe when you first married, your husband or wife was fired up, gun-ho, Haribol, let's save the world. Up every morning at 2:30, 32 rounds a day, right? But now, you know, he had to go back to school, now he's got the job, he's getting up at 6 o'clock, you know, everything's changed. And his wife's, oh, this bum, kick him out of the house, I hate him. No, it's just, this is where he's at right now, so you accept that. See, the whole point is, you're always nice. You're not, no. I'm not going to be nice to you because you used to get up at 2:30, now you get up at 6. I'm not going to be nice to you anymore because I don't like you. I don't like what you're doing. It's all about relationships. So the whole point is, make the relationship good, make it peaceful, make it so we can all do our devotional service whatever level we're at, and then by your example you inspire more than anything. In other words, if your husband or wife is not on the level you want them to be, just don't let that get in the way of a good relationship. That's the point. A relationship is the basis. And you set the example. Like, I know in my marriage, my wife doesn't do the same level of austerity that I do all the time. But I know she appreciates what I'm doing, and I know it's a stabilizing and inspiring force for her. That she's better off than if I didn't do it, even though she may not be doing it as much as I do. So knowing that and knowing what her capabilities are at this point in her Krishna consciousness, I don't allow that to interfere with the quality of the relationship, because the quality of the relationship should not be dependent on how good or bad someone's sadhana is. If it's very bad, okay, you want to talk about it and say, look, I would be inspired if you did this. If you could do this, that would be inspiring to me. And then they'll have to consider. But if the relationship is good, you can talk about these things. If the relationship isn't good, you'll just fight about it. You'll complain about it, your spouse will complain back to you because you're complaining to them, and they'll say, stop complaining. And you get nowhere other than fights, right? So your duty is to be a good devotee, and the duty of the wife is to be a good devotee, whatever that means. But don't allow that to harm the relationship. We have devotees whose husbands or wives are not devotees, and they have good relationships. So the wife's up at 4 in the morning chanting, and the husband, opens his eyes at 7, and they went to bed at the same time. And it's just, they have a good relationship. She likes him, he works, he provides. Okay, it's fine. Don't ruin a good thing. Don't make it worse. You know what I'm saying? There are many devotees in this situation where either husband or wife somehow is not a devotee. Somebody became a devotee later, or their parents arranged a marriage, and one of them decided not to be a devotee, but they have a good relationship, so they get along. Some of those couples get along better than devotee couples. Isn't that interesting? So, a devotee was asking me, said there's some men who are interested in marrying her, but one is not a devotee, but he's spiritual. And she said, what should I do? I said, if he is supportive of your Krishna consciousness and he's a really good husband, that's going to be better than a good devotee husband who doesn't know how to be a husband. Believe it, it sounds awkward, but it's true. Because you'll have a good relationship, it'll be peaceful at home, he'll support your devotional service. That's better than a good devotee who fights and yells at you and tells you you're you're no good because you didn't get up at 4 o'clock this morning. So, that's not what we want. So if we always understand the relationship is most important, and when the relationship is good, communication is good, so if there are issues, you can talk about it. When a relationship is bad, how do you know a relationship is bad? Communication is bad. You can't talk. You have to fight. Nobody listens. One of the major weaknesses of men is they don't listen, because they're always in problem-solving mode. So they have a hard time listening to their wife, and they don't always respect the opinions of their wife, and they don't think their wives know as much as they do, and they don't listen. And they think they're right, and the wife thinks, he's not right, what does he know? And then you get this conflict. Right? Yes.
Now we have about 10 devotees, there were 5 couple devotees, movement for many years. How we can use our presence in this area? There are about 20,000 non-devotees in this area. 20,000 non-devotees living in this area. How our presence can be used? What's your advice to spread Krishna consciousness?
Prabhuji, before that, on the topic that you were discussing before.
Yeah.
Like, see, sometimes the husband has so much of Krishna conscious ideas, like you want to do this, book distribution, there's a lot of ideas that you want to do this. But you don't find the time for that.
Yes.
And they are frustrated on that. What to do in that this thing? I mean, how to...
Oh, yeah. All right. It's a good question. So she's saying sometimes we want to do so many things to spread Krishna consciousness, but there's limitation of time. One of the problems is